I'm here today because, as a child of immigrants, I couldn't imagine what it would feel like for my parents and my siblings to be separated. I couldn't imagine what it would feel like for a parent to be coming to this country looking for a better life for their kids, looking to simply save their kids from possible death, which many will end up in their countries. To have them ripped apart from them is just, it's inhumane, it's unjust.
My name is Ingrid, and I am an undocumented immigrant mother with two children who are dreamers. Yes. Today, I am here in front of you as a mother who feels tired of receiving abuse and discrimination every day from this racist government. No matter how old they are, our children always need the love and warmth of our fathers or mothers. And it breaks my heart to see how many children are being separated from their moms and dads at the borders. It also breaks my heart to see them detained in horrible conditions, or to think that Trump no wants to put them in tents. A human being needs to grow up surrounded by love, and you are harming his kids, and you who are the future of this country. Stop it!
Yes!
Stop it!
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
We're turning away people who are victims of the very gang violence that this administration claims is such a problem.
Since that I told them that there were people across this country who do not want this to happen, who know that this is wrong and are standing up for them. And I told them that we would do everything in our power to get them immediately released, to get them credible fear hearings, and to reunite them with their children. So I was with them for about 3 hours, and I just want to tell you a little bit about what they told me so that you can hear it directly from me. What they told me about the facilities that they were taken to, they called them nicknames like the Icebox and Dog Pound. Icebox because they were so frigidly cold temperatures, and many of the women had crossed the Rio Grande, came across the river soaking wet, and then were put in this freezer with no blankets, no mattresses, and no clean drinking water. No clean drinking water, just a sink with dirty chlorinated water. The dog pound was called that because they are kennels in cages. They look like a dog pound. That's the other facility that they were held in. And these women who came seeking asylum were put into rooms. Initially, they turned themselves in, they were with their children, and they were deceived. One woman said to me, I was deceived, and many of them have said this. They were told that their children were going to be taken for a bath. They were told that they were going to be taken out to have a photograph. They were told that they were going to go to court. And then when they went and they came back, their children were not there anymore. Not a one of these women had been able to even say goodbye to their children. And not a one of them knew where their children were. And they had been in detention, about half of them, for over a month. Over a month. And they didn't know where their children were. Some of them had been given slips of paper from ICE that had their name and a couple of their children, and their children's name on that little tiny slip of paper. Except one woman said to me, these are not my children. The children that are listed here are not my children. They were, when they realized that their kids had been taken away from them, forcibly removed from them, they literally were, some of them were sitting in the room right next door to where their children were. They could hear them screaming for them. They could hear them screaming for them. And some of the children were as young as 1 year old. 1 year old, 3 years old, 5 years old, 7 years old. These are kids who should be with their parents. And the stories of why these women came to the United States of America were everything that we have to make sure Americans across this country understand. These are not rapists, they're not murderers, they're not animals, they're not gang members. They are women seeking safety for their children. One woman who was from El Salvador, her oldest child had been shot and killed by gang members. Her second child had been shot and paralyzed by gangs. And her third child, the only child that was still alive and not paralyzed, she felt she had to bring to safety. So she did what every mother would do. And I am a mother, and I know we have mothers here and fathers here who understand that we will do anything it takes to bring our children to safety. That is what asylum seeking is. Is that right? We bring our children to safety. Another woman told me her story and said that she had, her husband had raped a 12-year-old child. And so she was trying to take her children to safety because he was threatening her life and her children's lives. These stories went on and on and on. And these are the stories of the women. And I have got to believe with every fiber of my being that if the American people could listen to their stories and hear these women speak, that they would open their hearts and they would say, let them loose. You reunite them with their children, and let us make sure that the United States of America stands for moral values. Not a single one of them had what we call a credible fear hearing, which is the beginning of the immigration process, right? You come in, you ask for asylum, you turn yourself in, you get a credible fear hearing. That used to be the process. But we're not talking about immigration policy here. We are talking about the soul of our country, and we should be clear that that is what is at stake.
And my colleagues have been demanding from this administration even a policy that shows how they're going to handle and work with and protect these children and reunify them with their parents. Do you think there's a policy out there? No, I haven't seen it. What we have seen is their actions, and their actions show that they don't care about these families. They don't care about these kids. They don't care about how they're treated. You reunifying them with their parents, and they certainly don't care the trauma and the impact they're going to have long-term on these children and their families.
Doctors. As a doctor, I'm here to tell you that forced separation can damage children, body and soul. It can literally impair their brains. There are studies that back this up. How does it happen? The relationship of children and parents is the strongest tie most people experience, and a threat to that tie is amongst the most traumatic events somebody can endure. Forced separation of children and parents, especially while the parent is also being detained, can cause trauma, what we in medicine call adverse childhood experiences. These experiences can disrupt actual brain development. They can alter the very architecture of the brain, which in turn can result in social and emotional and cognitive impairment for decades. Extreme and repetitive stress has a name. It is called toxic stress, and it is linked to an increased risk of developing chronic mental health conditions like depression and PTSD. But even physical conditions such as cancer, stroke, diabetes, and heart disease can result from toxic stress. These assaults on the cognitive and emotional functioning of children can last for years and continue into adulthood. And you know what else produces similar effects on the body and the mind as family separation? Studies have shown that beating does and that torture does. Just let that sink in. Science has also shown that such ongoing stress can go so deep as to alter our DNA, the very essence of being human. And this can affect not only the victims, but also their children and their children's children for generations. These are children fleeing violence with their parents. What have we become Kids do not belong in prisons. Kids do not belong in deserted shops. Kids do not belong in tent cities. And kids do not belong in cages.
All four of my grandparents were immigrants, and they were Jewish immigrants who came to America in the early 1900s, fleeing from the persecution that Jews lived under in Europe. And, you know, if America had not let them in, probably I wouldn't be here because they would have been killed by the Nazis. And that's the situation for a lot of the people coming to America today, fleeing from violence in Central America, in Syria, in other parts of the world. And I just can't believe that our government has been taken over by people who are so evil that they'll actually take children away from their parents. I'm really horrified. I'm really frightened now for the state of our country. I think it was Congressman Jayapal who said this is a fight for the soul of America, but it really is. And if we allow this evil to go on, Trump and Sessions and those like them are going to do worse things, and we need to know that. So I hope everybody watching this video, think of something you can do if it's going to your congressperson's office and talking to the staff there about stopping this policy or stopping other inhuman policies.
If you ever asked yourself what you would do when this moment came, it is here. And it is on all of us. Heidi's not a professional. Heidi stepped up and said, how do I get a permit? It is all of us taking action, large and small, from whatever we can do every single day, because evil only wins when they outlast us. They will not outlast us. This is the beginning of the end of them, because our love is more powerful than their evil.
We are going to continue on until we turn the direction of this country. If you continue to check back at familiesbelong.org, you will find resources, suggestions for future actions, ways to contribute. But today you contributed in the most important possible way, by showing up.
Donate, call your representatives, demand, go up to the centers, say, hey, this is not okay, look for lawyers, ask them questions, just support in any way that you can. And then don't stop at a rally, don't stop at a one-time donation, and really demand, because if you turn a blind eye even once, the situation just keeps getting worse, and that's what's been happening. We've been turning so many blind eyes. We knew from the moment that he became elected that this was going to happen.
Think of something you can do and do it, because if we don't, right now they're taking over, and we have to stop them.